Hello everyone, hope you're all doing good. In my previous sessions regarding the Scale Agile framework, we discussed about the essential configuration, large solution, portfolio configuration, the overview of SAFe from the Scrum Master perspective, the SAFe principles, the PI planning, pre-PI planning, preparation for PI planning, all different concepts or topics related to the Scale Agile framework. Today, I'm going to discuss about the SAFe Big Picture, which was recently launched by Scale Agile. I know the framework is restricted. There is a change in the policy from the Scale Agile perspective. There's a restriction from the framework access perspective. However, I'm going to make use of the open source information from the framework, whichever is available for all of us to access, irrespective whether we have active certification with the Scale Agile as a framework. Let me start sharing my screen. So once we log into the framework.scaleagile.com, earlier we used to have essential, large solution, portfolio, full, and the competencies. Now we can see the new tab added as a big picture. What is a big picture? So this is the thing which we are going to discuss in today's session. So as you can see, compared to the full configuration, the big picture was simplified, easy to refer, easy to navigate and go through from understanding perspective and from starting to make use of the framework for the first time. So what does that mean? Let's take a look at it. So on the top, we have the enterprise and the government. Of course, these are the two key driving factors from the implementation perspective. So let's start with the foundation. The foundation is simplified now with the mindset, values, and principles, which is really essential for any of the implementation, irrespective of whether it is agile, scrum, waterfall, or any implementation, any organization. The mindset, values, and principles are really, really important. Then comes the SPCs, the safe practice consultants, who helps drive the transformation implementation at the organization level, followed by the implementation roadmap, and then the measure and grow. The measure and grow is the key, especially before we start with the transformation of the implementation, to figure out where we are currently versus what the steps we took as part of the implementation roadmap and how we improved, how we succeeded in the implementation, what we achieved in the transformation, to showcase that outcome, the result or the metrics to the leadership, to the organization level. We need to start with the measure and grow even before we start with the transformation. So that way we will get to know where we are currently versus how we achieved the success as part of the implementation roadmap. So that forms the foundation, the base of the big picture. Then comes the from the enterprise and government, the portfolio level leadership will start defining the portfolio strategy, which becomes an input into the portfolio backlog through which the epics, or in simple terms, the initiatives will get defined. Right? So the portfolio leadership will be taking the ownership or focus on getting that strategy defined, and then which will turn into the portfolio backlog and which get prioritized in the form of initiatives or epics from the safe terminology, and that will be passed as an input to the value streams. There could be multiple value streams within the organization, within the enterprise, which we need to focus even on the coordinate and deliver among the value streams. So that's where, if in case you are an enterprise agile coach, or if in case you are working at the portfolio level, is a safe practice consultant or an SPC, whether it is a in-house or an external consultant, you may have to focus on coordinating and getting this done at the portfolio level. So all these value streams come together. They focus on delivering the products and solutions on continuous basis to the customers, to the end users, to the stakeholders. Right? So the business owners as a next step comes as a connecting point between the portfolio and the implementation. So the business owners could be the internal stakeholders versus external stakeholders as well, especially when it comes to the service companies where we are making use of that implementation. The business owner could be the client stakeholder who initiated that conversation to have the uh, initiation and bringing up that implementation context to these service companies. So they might be the client stakeholders or the client representative and user perspective. They will have that the authority of the entire initiative, the ownership or authority or accountability of that overall initiative. So then comes the leadership at the release train level, the product management, system architect, and the release train engineer. All these three roles together focus on driving the agile release train towards delivering business value. Right? How this happens? The first step is to we start with the product innovation. We already have the strategy defined at the organization level, enterprise level. We have the backlog prioritized, the budget is allocated and reviewed and approved, and then the epic was prioritized, and then it was feeded into the value stream. So that's where the release train gets that input of which initiative they need to start focusing on, they need to start working on or prioritize from the implementation perspective. So for that, the release train will start with the innovation. Right. So first step is the exploration, continuous exploration. Even if you go back to the continuous delivery pipeline, CDP, the first step is like continuous exploration. How do we want to achieve? We want to achieve some initiative, what is defined, what is prioritized as per the organization context, but how do you want to achieve it? How is it going to help the end user? Which market sector we may have to release it, or which customer segment we need to focus on, or from the overall initiative level, which feature, which module, or which scope of work should be prioritized first. Right? The technical aspects also, we need to figure out which tool, which technology, or which version, which software, or which hardware we may have to make use of, whether it is a build versus buy or anything as such. It might come from the product innovation perspective, through which the vision and the roadmap at the release train level will be defined, which will be the subset from the organization enterprise level vision and the strategy and the roadmap. That will be passed on as an input to the release train level backlog, ART backlog. In the simple terms, we can even call as a product backlog or a solution backlog from the implementation perspective. From that, we know that there will be multiple release train, multiple teams within an agile release train. So there, the backlog, the features will be, as you can see here in the middle, the features will be, or enablers will be executed, implemented the step by step, and with the focus of delivering value, business value to the customer, continuous, constantly delivering iterative incremental value delivery to the customer, to the end user, by making use of the release on demand as a context. So as you can see, there are multiple teams working together at the release train level, and each team will have their own team backlog where they will start splitting that features or enablers into smaller user stories or enabler stories, and they will implement, execute, or get that implementation done as across the iterations. So once we start with the PI planning, each iteration we will focus on doing that continuous integration, doing the system demo on continuous basis, and towards the end of the PI, we will be, as a release train, we will be doing the inspect and adapt, and we will go ahead into the next PI planning. So the top is showing that how the flow is happening from the left to right, whereas the bottom part is showing that the feedback coming from right to left, which means the feedback could be coming from the customer, feedback could be coming from the stakeholders, feedback could be even coming from the teams. When they started implementing, executing, they also might realize some new scope might have to implement, some gaps is there, or some additional things we may have to deliver, or we can deliver to deliver value to the end user, to the customer. So this is how a simple, effective, easy, direct, straightforward way the safe big picture was defined from the implementation perspective. Hope this information is helpful. So as we all know, each of these icons are clickable as a link. Once you click on that link, we will be having that point. You can open in a new tab and you will get access to the respective information that I'm not showing or that I'm not going through right now, but you can start making use of it as required, provided you have access to the safe framework with the active certification. Hope you find this information helpful. See you all in the next video. Thank you.